I really like Capcom games. In terms of the pedigree of games they've released, many of them I consider to be some of my all-time favorites. Resident Evil, Devil May Cry, you name it. And even in the modern day, they keep releasing hit after hit. And since the Game Awards last year, we got some pretty big announcements from Capcom. A single-screen teaser for a new Okami game, nothing, unfortunately, for Viewtiful Joe, sorry Viewtiful Joe fans, and then a full-on gameplay trailer for a game called Onimusha, a name I haven't heard in a really long time. So, Onimusha, is a game best described as old-school Resident Evil, but you're a samurai. Instead of having a number of modern firearms to help dispatch zombies, you're instead armed with a bunch of ancient Japanese weapons to help you take care of demons. The PS2 era for Capcom was full of weird experimental stuff, most of it stemming from the Resident Evil series. And that particular talking point is a discussion for another day, but Onimusha finds itself to be another weird splinter of Resident Evil. So if you'll allow me a moment of your time, we're gonna talk about everything. The weapons, the enemies, the lore, the story, everything Onimusha. Hope you enjoy.
Men! Fight and die with honor!
save Princess Yuki.
Dear Samanosuke,
No.
This way, sir. If our princess is at the keep, there are two ways to get there. The western path, or the northern passage.
Kaede, I'll go north. You follow them through the other way.
understand.
So, here we are. Just outside of Inabayama Castle, our mission is to save Princess Yuki with nothing more than the sword that we wield and the armor on our backs. And with that, we take the north path. Oh hey, that was easy.
Princess Yuki! Princess Yuki, Your Highness.
Samanosuke, it's really you. Oh, I knew that you would come to save me. I have missed you so much since you left the castle.
What?
Mega chunk. Flee while you can, you worthless bug. He coming for humans!
Princess.
Samanosuke. Samanosuke. Wake up, Samanosuke. With your current power, you are not capable of destroying the demons. We will give you our powers. We are the clan of ogres that has been subverted by the demons. Samanosuke, defeat and seal their souls to your right hand.
What?
Destroy all the demons.
So, fortune has smiled upon me this day. With the power of this gauntlet, I will destroy all of those monsters and save the princess!
The Oni Gauntlet is really cool. If I were to pinpoint a main mechanic for Onimusha, it would probably be the Gauntlet. The change only looks cosmetic as of right now, but don't worry, there'll be time for whenever it shines. Here's our first save point. Nice. And I just need to express how cool the pre-rendered backgrounds are in a 3D game. I think this is the last 3D rendered background game that Capcom has ever made. And you might say, well, it looks ugly and dated, and I would tell you, well, shut up. I'm playing Onimusha. Okay, pause right here. These enemies right here are called zombie warriors, and while they're not too notable to a typical, regular human being, they're important to me. Specifically, the noise they make whenever they greet you. Just listen to it again. Something about the noise these guys make just sort of echoes something fierce in me. When they're caught aware of you, it almost feels like a challenge. It's like a question to me. It's like, are you ready to fight? And your reply is always just, readying your sword. It's like this growl was made to just grab your attention, and it works perfectly for that.
Hurry! Monsters! Close the door, now!
But someone is there!
Get him!
So let's go ahead and talk about combat some. Like most games I grew up with, the combat is easy to grasp but hard to master. Any and all melee weapons have a 3-hit combo string, and you also have the option to lock onto enemies. Doing so will replace your left and right tank control movement with instead a sidestep. Pressing forward an attack will also allow you to stab with any weapon that you have, and back an attack will allow you to do a kick. Pay attention to this one, it'll be on the test later.
Open the door! I've killed all the monsters!
He killed?
Huh?
What should we do?
You! Ah! Sorry.
We are very sorry. Please forgive us.
What happened to you?
They came out of nowhere and attacked us.
The keep may have also been attacked by them.
The keep is ahead of us that way?
Right. The forest road there is a shortcut to the keep.
I see.
Okay, so if I don't start talking about the Oni Gauntlet now, somebody's gonna be mad. So let me just show you this. This right here, this little innocuous action, this is everything that Onimusha stands for. During any point in the game, you can press the circle button to suck. Doing so will allow you to collect souls from the demons you kill. There are 3 soul colors in the game and they all do different things: red for experience, yellow for healing, and blue for magic. What's important to note about all the souls though is that they despawn rather quickly. And more importantly, they take time to travel towards you. At the end of the battle you get to reap your rewards and there's no problems there. But in the middle of combat you have to weigh your options. Can you collect that health soul before that enemy attacks you? That sort of thing. It's cool, you got innate risk reward and resource management, almost like I'm playing Resident Evil. Look at these pots. Look at this background. Now look at this little chest. Everything that's interactable in the game sort of stands out. It reminds me of whenever old cartoons had sort of pieces of the set that needed to be animated, so they looked visually different from the rest of the scenery. And I don't know, I just think that's cool. Obviously, modern advancements in technology whenever it comes to monitors and other ways to play video games visually make these items stand out a lot more. And I really don't know how else to describe it other than quaint, I guess? Like, I don't know, it's kind of funny and definitely seems like a product of the time. Allow me to introduce you to your new favorite fictional katana in video games. No, not you. You'll get your chance someday, though. Not you either, god, give me a break. The Raizan is your first magical-based weapon in Onimusha. It shares exactly the same moveset as the normal sword, which means it's a safe and dependable option that you should already be pretty familiar with. If I were to pinpoint an equivalent weapon in the Resident Evil series, I think possibly the pistols sort of fit the bill best here. The Raizan works in basically any situation. It might not ever be the best possible pick, but it's not the worst either. Even at its base level, it does more damage than the starting sword, so that's cool. But there's something else pretty neat about it too. Yeah, I guess talking about magic would be a good idea about now, huh? After first obtaining the Raizan, we get this new meter underneath our health bar. This is obviously the magic meter, and any magical attack you're capable of doing is sort of fixed to the weapon you get. Different magical attacks will cost different amounts of magic out of your meter, and whenever you collect a magic orb from enemies, it'll end up filling all of your meters for all of your weapons. This is a pretty understated resource management angle out of Onimusha. Magic attacks always do a ton of damage, and depending on the attack itself, it'll have different applications. When any magical attack actually connects, it ends up giving you complete invulnerability. And specifically in the case of the Raizan, upgrading it all the way will end up basically one-shotting every enemy in the game so long as it's not a boss, at least in normal mode. For something a little bit more divisive, we need to talk about trick treasure boxes. Yeah, it's a sliding block puzzle, and they're littered all across the game very sparingly. And you can only turn them in clockwise sets of 4. This first one isn't too egregious, thankfully, but unfortunately, there's a lot of necessary key items that you need to collect from these trick treasure boxes, and it's just, I don't know, kind of a bad design decision in my opinion. We use our freshly obtained rope ladder and climb down this hole. Oh yeah, I forgot about the decoder boxes as well. To break this down really fast, what you need to do is basically use these little cipher books to figure out what word you're trying to spell. You're given a prompt to sort of figure out what you're supposed to say in the answer box, you assemble an answer, you hit OK, and then you get an item out of it. Unlike the trick treasure boxes, these are actually all optional. Most of the times they contain either upgrades to your health or your magic meters, so they're useful, but, you know, they're not really fun to solve either. I don't necessarily blame you if you want to look up the answers or anything. This game is plenty well recorded on the puzzle front of things. But alternatively, if you want to collect them in their intended routes, then pick up the cipher books and do all of your puzzle solving and stuff that way. For me though, I have the attention span of a goldfish, so I'm just going to look up all the answers and get a move on. And speaking of getting a move on, here comes a skill check.
Huh?
Didn't know humans could be such pests?
Where is the princess?
Humans are more tasty when angry, and I haven't eaten in a while.
Hefty chunk.
This is Ostrich, and he, like many of Capcom's early 2000 first bosses, acts as sort of a pop quiz for your understanding of the controls. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, this is an absolutely brutal fight if you don't know what you're doing still. He's a giant dude with a big ass kanabo and he hits like a truck. He's got a couple of unblockable attacks, and he can even enrage himself to sort of run into you with his horns. Or teeth, whatever those are. Pro tip sort of thing, I guess, you can actually get him to run into the back wall here, only this wall, no other wall, and he'll get stuck there for a couple of attacks. After he gets done raging, he'll tucker himself out, and this will leave him open for a couple more attacks. His health bar isn't all that big, but you wouldn't know that if this is your first time fighting him. Especially in the modern day with tank controls being mostly phased out, this fight really is brutal. I don't really have anything else to add, so I'll also just mention, every boss in Onimusha, if you attack them a good amount of times, they'll end up dropping orbs of any color. This means they can also drop magic and health orbs, which obviously gives you a little bit of a boost mid-fight. Let's wrap this up here though. Also, first try, yeah.
How could I die? By the hand of a human! Oh, Lord, he
It
comes!
is time for you to go back to the underworld.
Oh yeah, I forgot about these. We'll talk about fluoride whenever I feel like it. Instead, allow me to introduce you to the man, the myth, the legend, the absolute monster, Guildenstern.
Sweet, beautiful, lovely, the dripping blood, and what's this? Oh, a liver. What's that smell? Who's there? A human? How disappointing.
Face me, demon!
Who do you think you are talking to? I haven't seen one as foolish as you since that, Nobunaga.
Nobunaga?
I operated on and resurrected that pitiful Nobunaga after he was killed in Okihazuma. He then made a pact with the demons and pledged his eternal loyalty to serve us forever as our slave.
No!
Oh, yes, it is indeed true. Now let me show you my most recent creation. Go, Renato! Bite the belly of that maggot and feast upon his bloody flesh!
I don't think I've ever seen a more cartoony villain in my entire life. I know it's one of those early Capcom-isms, right? Just bad voice acting problems, bad English dubbing, I know, whatever. And I know some people don't like it at all, but just, to me, I think it just adds some much-needed levity to this story. In my opinion, it's better than a super evil villain that just knows what he's doing and is constantly threatening, you know? Oh yeah, also, Ronaldos suck, I hate these enemies. They constantly split apart whenever you attack them, making more of them. They have an annoying grab attack. 2 of them, actually. And their tentacles can hit you from a ridiculously long range. I don't like them. They make me feel icky. Greatsword, 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 greatsword. So this is the Enryu, your shotgun equivalent, more or less. Say hi, Enryu. It's a pretty standard heavy hitter weapon, and we love it for that. It's specifically good for big single targets that are hard to take down with any other weapon. Now let me be the first to admit that its magic attack is a lot more style over substance. By which I mean it's not the most useful magic attack. It throws fire in a sort of line in front of you, and there's not too many enemies that'll just line up to be hit. But there's no such thing as bad magic in Onimusha. That's what you get for taking my orbs. Now we need to talk about actually enhancing stuff in Onimusha, because there's something of a problem here. On the good side of things, everything that you can upgrade in Onimusha, aside from your consumable items, can go up to level 3. What's much less cool is that the dragon orbs that you put into your gauntlet are upgraded separately from your weapons. Upgrading your weapon obviously increases their attack damage, which is good, so why would you want to upgrade the orbs? Well, see, technically they're keys that you have to spend your upgrade resources on. Those ugly fleshy things covering the doors, those are the locks for your orbs to break, basically. They're demon seals. Depending on how many you see on the door corresponds to what level your orb needs to be. And I don't think I need to spell out why this is a problem. If you really want to simplify things, just make sure that your orbs are always at or above the level that your weapons are. It'll save you headache in the long run, and grinding in a survival horror is not the most fun experience, as I'm sure you can tell. Interesting thing that a lot of people don't bring up though, upgrading your orb directly increases your magic damage with your magical attacks, of course bound to the weapon itself. So it's not like it's a useless key upgrade, it does help your damage, it's just, you know, it's not going to be your bread and butter regular workhorse attacks. So these things, the names of which I'm not even going to try to pronounce.
Garan.
I'm going to be honest, whenever I introduced these guys, I was trying to do a little joke of like, oh well these guys suck too, you know, blah blah whatever. But we're just not going to do that. They take the souls out of any enemy that you kill. Once they've collected any number of souls, they'll begin to fly away. They'll indicate this by spinning really fast and progressively get faster as they spin. So just kill them and they'll drop everything and collect your souls. Yo, what up? Finally made it to the castle proper. I'm gonna try to cool it on the Resident Evil comparisons, but I mean at the same time, if you played Resi 1, is this not just the Spencer Mansion? Maybe you don't see that yet, but trust me, you'll see it in time. In other news, I would like to take this opportunity to discuss some of the lore surrounding Onimusha. We've been picking up these little books all across the game so far, and that's gonna continue the longer we play the game. So why don't we take a look real quick. Before we picked up the Ryzan, there have been these little journal entries written by a guy named Samu. Him, along with his master Sogen, have been basically fighting demons for a whole minute now. Samu has felt the need to detail all of his findings and stuff that he's been seeing along this journey, but he himself is not a fighter. His master is though, and he also happens to be another Oni warrior, just like our boy Samanosuke here. We don't have like a whole lot to go off of right now in terms of this little side story, but who knows, maybe keep an eye out and see if we see Sogen or Samayu here. Looks like we have another book, and this one's pretty nondescript, although, judging by the language, I'm willing to bet it's Guildenstern. I guess Nobunaga has been taken pretty well to the whole serving demon kind thing. And the name of the big bad demon seems to be Fortinbras. Guess we'll keep that in mind too. You know, just for posterity's sake. Right, okay. I see where this is going. Can't do anything else here, though. I guess we need another weapon. Magic refill station, I'll take it. That's nice. What? Hi? Okay.
Stop! Let me go!
Whoa, uh-oh. Can I even make a joke about this?
Let that child alone.
What is going on here?
Stop! Huh?
Who are you? And what do you want with that boy?
I should ask you the same thing. You are not working for Saito clan, are you? Wait. Can you be Samanosuke Akechi? Yes, you are! I cannot believe you are here of all places. I am a servant of the Oda clan. My name is Tokichiro Kinoshita.
This man will eventually conquer the world under the name Hideyoshi Toyotomi.
True facts.
What is a servant of the Oda clan doing here?
Wait, first we must talk business. Tell me, Samanosuke, are you interested in serving our clan? My Lord Nobunaga Oda would welcome a great samurai like yourself.
I serve no one. My life is mine and mine alone to command.
I see. However, I will not give up yet. We shall meet again.
Man, what a weirdo. Another note from Samayo, just detailing how awful demons are. Yeah, that checks out. Like anything based off of Resident Evil, we got a bunch of locked doors and no keys to go with them.
Samanosuke, is there something you wanted to ask this young man?
Do not be afraid.
No! You want to hurt me like that other samurai did.
That is not true. Please, tell me your name.
I am Yumamaru.
Yumimaru, you must tell me. What did that samurai want with you?
Why should I know?
Fine, then why are you here? Who brought you here?
Yep, there he goes.
Go after him while I look for Princess Yuki.
I will.
Out of all the locations or just general things that get stuck in my head from this game, for some reason this random hallway with the stairwell has just, I don't know, been residing in there. I don't know why that is, I really couldn't tell you, but just when I think of Onimusha, I think of this room. Do as I say and not as I do here. Cutting that rope releases a barrel that hits the bottom of a well way later on in the game, and that barrel contained... Barrel? It's a bucket, not a barrel. The bucket has a power jewel in it, so if you want to get it early, just don't cut the rope as much as you want to. I have a weird personal vendetta against suspended items in Capcom games, and I don't know why. There's another thing like this in Resident Evil 4, but that's for a Resi 4 video. I just need to mention real fast, if any, and I mean any of y'all, either play this game or go back to it, do not sleep on the bow. This isn't just some piece of wood tied with a string, this is a magnum, and you get 2 of them. And with that, I'm gonna opt to hoard all of my ammo for a very specific purpose later on. Once again erring on the side of neat little wrinkles with this game, one of the cool secret mechanics you can do is actually save these foot soldiers. Doing so will have them give you an item as thanks. They're not any good in a fight against any demon to speak of, and as a result of that, they don't do any damage and they have some pretty tiny health bars. This is also maybe not the best possible example of something like this, just because I don't know how to save these specific soldiers. I never figured out how. But if I don't include it here, I'm gonna forget later on, so just to put the information there. This book is possibly my favorite lore entry across the entire series. And that's because of its wider real-world implications. Apparently, Nobunaga is not the only human to undergo some sort of revival surgery by demons. Some of the names mentioned in passing are Genghis Khan and Alexander the Great. Like, oh, okay, apparently demons have been just doing this for a whole minute. Although I will admit it kinda makes me wish we had some sort of spin-off games where these guys were their own separate antagonists, but oh well. Also, I just want to lay this out there, more games desperately need the secret ninja sliding hidden doors and castles stuff. This is exactly my kind of thing. Oh, and speaking of things I'm likely to forget, long-arm demons. The growl that they make scared me as a kid. Yeah, that's kind of it. Well, that and then also the gatekeeper guy, the one hanging down from the rope.
I have been able to uncover Yumemaru's identity. He is the son of a farmer.
What?
4 years ago, his parents were killed at war. Princess Yuki found him crying alone and brought him to the castle.
I see.
And I also heard that Princess Yuki raised him as if he were her own brother.
So he stole his way into the castle to save Princess Yuki. Why then is Tokichiro after Yumemaru?
Something seems to be going on. What? Oh. Samanosuke, we must find a way out!
Yes.
Oh boy, it's time for Onimusha's big puzzle room, yay! So this part is pretty infamous to anybody who's ever played this game, and that's gonna be for a couple reasons. On the bright side of things, this is the first time we're playing as Kaede, and she controls completely differently to Samanosuke, so that's kinda cool. This isn't exactly the best place to talk about her, playstyle or anything, so we'll save that for later. For now, the trap room, what's it about, what makes it so bad? Well, for starters, it's a really long segment. None of the puzzles are particularly complex or anything, but if you ever mess up here, well, often that's going to result in you dying, and because this game works on a save system, if you die, you get brought back to your last save point, and that's a pretty big issue, I'm sure you can tell. Ow. There's a missable armor set for Samanosuke here. It's basically free, you just have to remember that you can access it. I think it might protect a little bit better than the starting armor, but mostly you want it so that the, whatever those floating skull things are, they don't steal your magic from you if you have this armor equipped, which is kinda cool, and also it looks snazzy. This first room isn't so bad, but the second room is notably worse. What do we got, like a tic-tac-toe board going on? What is this? Oh. So as I'm sure you can tell, we take turns controlling either Samanosuke or Kaede to sort of go through this puzzle room. Speaking purely as a person who's played this game a lot, this next room isn't all that bad, but if you have your brain turned completely off, Falling through one of these spike pits results in instant death, which means you have to go through this room and the previous one again just after your save point. The X's or the crosses indicate which tile is going to drop out from under you. So just give it some thought before you make any decisions and, fumble but don't fail at it. Trace the paths that will become hazardous, just so you don't accidentally kill one of your characters. Now this second room also isn't all that bad, but the third room is awful.
I wonder what this room is.
Huh?
Samanosuke! What happened? Are you all right?
I seem to be trapped.
Is there a way you can get out of there? Samanosuke, wait there. I will help you.
So for the first time ever in this series, we actually have a nondescript timer in this segment. Which means, yay, pressure of time in a high-stakes scenario. This puzzle sucks. To start us off here, your indicator for how high the water level is getting is this little meter on the left side of the screen. Your only objective is to push these two symbols so that they touch at the bottom center of the board. This doesn't sound all that bad, but if you know anything about early 2000s block pushing puzzles, yeah, it's pretty awful. And what's worse, the moment that gauge hits the top, Samanosuke dies and you have to do all 3 of these rooms over again. The stakes and tension are appreciated, but yeah, there's a reason this is the worst room in the entirety of Onimusha 1. I would say if you're playing by less than legal means, then just go ahead and use a save state, but, don't have to if you don't wanna. I will say that if this is the first time you're playing this game, you're guaranteed to fail at least once. I, on the other hand, got it first try, let's go!
We are safe now. I will go search for clues.
Fine.
Well, I mean, that wasn't so bad, I guess. So long as you know what you're doing. Onimusha is a game that's not really all that hard most of the time. Especially if you are familiar with the game, it can feel a lot more like a power trip than a survival horror. At the same time, though, if you manage your resources poorly, or you fail a puzzle, or, I don't know, something else weird happens, the game can get kinda hard sometimes. And I say this more as random spikes in difficulty as opposed to regular progression or player-made mistakes. One of those old games have problems and that builds character kinda deals, I guess. Sick.
Let child alone.
Yumimaru!
Hey, Samanosuke! We meet again. So, have you decided to serve the Oda clan?
Move!
It is too late for the boy. And since you have learned that our Lord Nobunaga will rule the world with the demons, you should not bark up the wrong tree.
You're insane! What you are doing will lead to innocent people being used as food for the demons.
The strong will prey upon the weak. Farmers obey samurai, and humans obey demons.
You arrogant fool!
Our dark ceremony will take place soon. Princess Yuki's skull will be filled with her own blood. And when our Lord Nobunaga drinks it, the victory of the Oda clan over the Saito clan will be guaranteed! Ah! See you again, Samanosuke!
Yeah, okay, I guess we'll talk about the game's literal only collectible. So, fluorite. What'd it do? Fluorite are these little blue rocks scattered all throughout the game. They don't have any indicators for where you can find them until much later on in the game, and there are a total of 20 throughout any given playthrough. If you collect 10, then you unlock a minigame in the main menu that gives you something else when you complete that minigame, and collecting all 20 will give you a costume for Samanosuke whenever you do a new playthrough. I'm not going to show any of that part necessarily, just because there's nothing necessary about it. I'd argue that the 10 fluorite benchmark is much more important than the 20, so I'm not going to collect every single one of them, but I'll be sure to mention how many we end up with at the end of this playthrough.
Help me! Let me out!
Child.
Can anybody hear me?
Well, I think I know what's in our immediate future. Now wait a second, is that an Oni gauntlet that demon is using? Well, that's kinda weird, I wonder how he got that. Well, turns out it was Guildenstern again, and his pride and joy experiment, Marcellus. Marcellus is a once Oni warrior that wields the Wind Orb Arashi. Yes, this is in fact the same Oni orb that you're using currently, just wind elemented. Going through wikis and stuff to do some proper research on this game, I don't actually know if this is Sogen right here, or if it's his little rider buddy that he's tagging along with. Depending on where you get the information from, it might actually be another Oni warrior that helped Sogen. Although I don't know, whenever I look at videos in this game, they just say that Marcellus is Sogen, so I don't know, up to you I guess. Nonetheless, this fight is really cool. Two samurais battling atop a roof is a weirdly consistent thing in the Japanese-centered video games that I've always played. In terms of talking about the boss fight proper, it's also pretty cool. Marcellus has a lot of wide, sweeping hit attacks because, you know, wind does that. And he's no slouch whenever he can actually land a hit on you either. The shield that he wields can break if you do enough damage to it. This will leave him open to any and all of your attacks thereafter, and once that shield is broken, it's more or less a proper samurai duel. Kinda, sorta. It's a neat fight, but I feel like the Osterich fight is just harder from a beginning playthrough kind of angle, right? Once you get to Marcellus, you're already pretty confident in your capabilities because you have to beat Osterich first. That does not mean it's a bad fight, though. Perfectly serviceable. And here we have our final Oni weapon of the game, the Shippuden. It always felt kind of weird to me that there's only 3 Oni weapons in the first Onimusha game, but for what it's worth, each weapon sort of rounds each other out pretty well. And don't worry, we'll get other, slightly less special weapons as the game goes on anyway. So what's a Shipu about? Well, namely, it's a really fast, double-headed Naginata. That sure was a lot of words, what does any of that mean? Well, to keep a long story short, it's really good at hitting dudes who don't want to be hit normally. Your basic attack is actually pretty good at hitting multiple enemies at once. But like the other 2 weapons in our roster, the magic attack is where this weapon really shines. What do you mean an AoE attack that cleaves multiple enemies at once? I mean, yeah, sure, I'll take it. And because magic in Onimusha is incapable of doing bad damage anyway, this is pretty good. It's objectively better than the Inryu's magic attack anyway, so I mean, hey, I'll take it.
My sister. Please save her.
Don't worry. You're safe now.
Please. You have to save her.
I give you my word. I will save Princess Yuki. Kaede, do you know why Princess Yuki took care of this boy? Princess Yuki was born the daughter of a feudal lord, and thus raised from an arranged marriage. She has had no freedom whatsoever. So when she meets someone else who's in need, she wants to help them. In this world, only the strong survive.
Samanosuke.
Let me tell you about the ways of the world, Yamamaru.
The world?
Four years ago, my uncle Mitsuhide pressured me to leave and see the world. I have met people who speak and look different than us. I have experienced things that I never would have imagined. There are infinite things that we do not understand. There is beauty and freedom all around us. You owe it to yourself and everyone to see these things and then share them with the people of this country. You must help them to understand the absurdity of fighting over such small portions of land on this tiny island.
Help!
Who are you?
My name is Nui. I serve Princess Hatsu. Princess Yuki is underground. Oh!
You all right? Kaede, we have little time. I have to find Princess Yuki. You watch over these two.
I will.
So, I'm gonna be honest, I don't exactly know where to put this next part, so I'm just gonna sorta plop it on right here. Maybe you, as a newcomer to the series, watching this video for the first time, have never seen Onimusha, right? That's fair, it's kinda niche. With all this cool stuff going on and with all these ideas going out, why haven't you heard of this game? A fair question, if you are indeed asking it. And since we need to kill some time anyway, let's just go ahead and talk about it. What was the development cycle like for Onimusha? Well, for starters, Keiji Inafune was the producer for the game. If that name rings any bells, yeah, he's the Mega Man guy. From what I'm able to gather, Inafune basically wanted to have another slice at that, survival horror Resident Evil pie, so to speak. He himself has not worked on any Resident Evils, so instead, wanting a new IP to sort of mess around with and see where he could take it, he opted to make Onimusha. And this is all well and good, but that doesn't really answer the question of why is this game so niche. Well, the truth is, it's not if you're playing this in Japan, where it ended up selling gangbusters. The sole reason for this? A man named Takeshi Kaneshiro. We're getting into real name territory for Japanese people, and as a result of that, I'm probably definitely gonna mispronounce a lot of names here. I might have been doing that the whole time, but because these are real people, I don't want to come off as accidentally insensitive, so just fair warning, I'm American speaking. Takeshi Kaneshiro is a big deal in Japan. He's a singer, he's a movie star, but what he isn't is a game designer. The general strangeness surrounding his involvement with Onimusha, if you wanted to compare it to something, would be like if Tom Cruise was a part of an American dev team for a game and not just for a movie he released. Or starred in, or whatever, I don't watch movies. Now, when you think about it, this would normally be a recipe for disaster, right? Somebody who's made media before but isn't a game designer having direct involvement in a game? Yeah, it's kinda weird, but as it turns out, Kaneshiro's inclusions into the game were kind of the thing that made it sell. Not just his name, but really he was also playing the game, going through and playtesting it, changing things he didn't like or thought could be done better. A lot of the cinematics were directed by him, or at least there was some involvement for him to sorta guide the process of it, so to speak. There's a reason why his name is on the back of the box, and there's a reason why his name is on the title screen, is really what I'm saying. And while the name doesn't mean anything to you or me, the name does happen to be important to people overseas, really important. If I'm being completely transparent, I don't necessarily have any stakes when involving this guy into talking about this video or anything. But it's important to note just to tell you, hey, this game was bigger in Japan. A lot bigger, as it turns out, and as a result I really can't do this entire idea justice. But just know that he comes back in the rest of the games too to also involve himself in those other games. An actor, a singer. Still not a game designer. In fact, the only games he's worked on are the Onimusha games. And because they have him as an actor resource, they not only used him to voice Samanosuke in the Japanese version of the game, they also modeled Samanosuke after Kaneshiro. The Japanese names are getting hard to pronounce now. Okay, sorry, anyway, where were we again? Well, I mean, every horror game needs a basement, I guess. But, weirdly, this basement isn't very big. I'm pretty sure it's only like 3 or 5 rooms. So we'll, knock it out real fast, I guess. Hey, what do you know, another booby trap. Best suggestion I can give for this, turn the lock-on, face the far wall, and then just sort of strafe past it. Your little dodge strafes are much faster than just regularly walking, so just do that anytime something trap-related happens. Oh hey, a laboratory in a Capcom game. Oh yep, there they go.
We meet again, Samanosuke. Still no interest in coming to work for the Oda clan?
For the last time, no!
I tried my best to help you. You just do not understand the true power of the demons. The time has come, demons! Prepare for the dark ceremony! Now you must suffer the consequences of your actions. I am sure by now, Kaede is in trouble.
Samanosuke, did you find anything?
What are you doing? Let go of me!
Samanosuke?
How dare you!
You are not experienced enough, are you?
Yumemaru? Yumemaru, where are you?
Allow me to introduce y'all to the Kaide Hour, or the next Kaide 30 minutes, I don't know, depending on how long the segment actually takes, I guess. So the Kaide segments play quite a bit differently from Samanosuke, obviously, and that's not always a good thing, but for now it's, I don't know, it's a different little change up to the typical formula we've been dealing with for about an hour now.
Are you alright? What happened?
Monsters from West Prison.
Having multiple playable characters in a game's campaign is one of my favorite little gaming cliches throughout, I don't know, just video games, period. Now, when you really think about it, they can serve a ton of purposes, including but not limited to giving that character their own characterization, acting as a nice distraction to make sure the main gameplay loop doesn't get too stale, and highlighting their different characteristics and proficiencies that you wouldn't normally see in a game that doesn't have multiple playable characters. Kaide acts as a pretty big departure because she's kind of like a glass cannon, kinda? Not really? I don't know, I guess it's more fair to say that she's a glass paper crane. There's a lot working against her, and her segments are some of the hardest parts of the game in terms of just how combat goes, and a lot of that has to do with her just not having any progression to speak of. Barring one very specific exception, and we're quickly approaching that, so I need to wrap this up as fast as I can. The only two weapons she can access are these little kunai daggers and obviously her main melee knife. She can't absorb demon souls whatsoever, so it's actually in your best interest to just run past all of the enemies. Her melee attacks boast some of the lowest damage in the game across any other weapon that you can think of, and her knife does about maybe half or a quarter of the damage that the bow does. She also doesn't get any health upgrades, so if you end up taking some dumb damage, you might be kinda screwing yourself a little bit whenever you get back to Samanosuke, because their healing pools are shared. You need to learn very quickly that what you're doing as Kaide is running and being a ninja. Getting into fights is only really a last resort, and if you're forced to fight anything, then it better be forced. Taking any glancing blows from enemies here means that you take a ton of damage per hit. She doesn't get armor upgrades like Samanosuke, so yeah, getting hit is pretty punishing. And I know the intention of these segments is to reinsert some survival horror into this Capcom survival horror game. Barring maybe your first playthrough or the very beginning of a repeat playthrough, it's more or less a samurai power trip the whole way through. And if you're playing this game for the first time, these Kaide segments really aren't that offensive, but they're not really any fun if you go back and play the game in a weird twist of fate. And that again just boils down to the fact that she has no progression. Mostly. Again, we'll get to it. Couple other things to note here. If you come across any demon seals, even if they're already open, they'll re-seal themselves because, well, Kaide doesn't have an Oni gauntlet. This seems like a bad thing, but really the game is just using these as an opportunity to point you in the right direction. Instead, whenever you come across a locked gate, Kaide can use her shinobi kit to lockpick the gate open. She's a ninja after all, so she can get into places where she's not supposed to. Any door that requires the shinobi kit, though, will be broken after you swap off of Kaide and go back to Samanosuke. Sometimes this will lock off whole areas, and sometimes it'll just lock off certain pathways. So if you're trying to collect fluoride or just, don't want to miss anything else, then be vigilant is all I'm saying. Because if you miss these unlocks, then you will miss them, and there's no way to go back to them unless you have a previous save point. And that's not any fun if you're trying to go for 100%, obviously. Couple pro tips before we wrap up here. If you truly need to fight anything, use as many kunai as you can. For some reason, all of the ranged weaponry in Onimusha Warlords is stupid strong, and that even goes for these stupid little daggers. Even if their stopping power is the lowest in the game for a ranged weapon, it's still a ranged weapon in Onimusha, and that should speak for itself. Even if it doesn't end up killing any demons, it'll stun lock them, so it'll kill them eventually. Another thing to add, if you do the stab attack right in an enemy's face, Kaide will jump behind the enemy, and if you press the attack button while you're behind them, you'll do an assassination move. This will one-shot most enemies in the game, and it even works on the big armored demon guys as well. It's a little risky to pull off, and it's not super consistent, but if you pull it off, it does feel pretty good. And then the last tip I'll give, which is actually something that works across the entire game regardless of who you're playing as, kick enemies. Kick them a lot. If you're fighting single targets, what you can end up doing is kicking them into a wall or just onto the ground, and this will leave them open for an execution regardless of the character you're playing as. It's the quickest way to dispatch them, and even if you kick them without finishing them off, they'll be out of the fight for a little while. If you don't feel like finishing off enemies as Kaide, then kick them and run, because again, you're supposed to be running as a ninja. But even still, widely speaking, if you're playing this game, anytime an enemy is on the ground, whether or not it be through kicking, you can finish them off and do a bunch of damage. Typically it'll result in one-shotting the enemy, but for the bigger guys, you might need to do it a couple times. Either way, it's a big chunk of damage and it helps. Whew, okay, I think that's everything that Kaide has to offer. Could I have paced that better throughout the video? Yeah, probably, but I didn't want to. These segments act as a pretty big paradigm shift for the game proper, and as a result, you're probably going to die during these Kaide segments at least once. As in once per time that they happen. That includes the puzzle segment that happened, I don't know, 20 minutes earlier, depending on how you're watching this. And from somebody who's played this game a lot, I don't know, it's kind of a mixed bag in my opinion. I appreciate the change-up, but I don't look forward to these segments. They're probably about the worst thing that this game has to offer, but it's not, offensively bad or anything. Just kinda meh, whatever. Ow. The perspective of this hanging chain thing always confused me. I always thought it was in the middle of this room, and I always remember it being in the middle, but no, it's in the upper right corner. It looks a lot closer, though. Maybe we can blame that on New Age televisions messing with the perspective or something. Yay, fixed camera angle issues. Wow, okay, rude.
You cannot burn me, I'm already on fire!
Okay, first things first, head to this back room. There's a trick treasure box up here, unlock it, you'll get the sacred knife. This is the one other thing regarding progression with Kaide that I was talking about, and yeah, it's a slight melee damage upgrade, but mostly you need it as a sort of key to cut past these tentacles. You can't do it with the regular knife because I assume demon magic or whatever. Also, yes, in case you were wondering, the fire does hurt, not only you, but enemies too.
You. Wait a moment. I will help you out.
You are Kaede?
Hmm?
Samnosuke once wrote to me that he journeys with a female ninja, Kaede.
So, you are...
If only I could leave the castle and see the world with Samanosuke.
Princess Yuki.
I envy you.
You can go.
Dog, what? Okay, no, so I've been racking my brain about this, like, ever since this most recent playthrough. Is this a historical, like, anti-lockpick trap? I've never seen this before.
Forget about me. Escape from this castle with Samanosuke.
Do not give up, Your Highness. I will save you.
No, you won't.
What?
You can die here alone.
Princess Yuki! Princess Yuki!
I'm gonna try my best to pronounce this guy's name. Volchaman? Don't really get any fanfare or anything because they're not supposed to be a boss. It's just that we're playing as Kaede and she struggles with fights. Which, yes, also means we're going to see them as Samanosuke and they're way less of a threat. You know, when you're actually playing as him. That being said, they're probably the most mechanically advanced out of any enemy that we'll ever see out of Onimusha. On the one hand, they can go invisible, obviously. They like to do this every time you finish a combo string, or sometimes just randomly in order to get the jump on you. Doing any form of a knockaway attack like a stab or a kick or something will cause them to also go invisible immediately. They will also do this if you throw a ranged weapon at them. They have a deceptively high health bar, and not only is their sword also a whip, it can also be bent around in a circle like a chakram. I don't know if there's any real consistent way to do it or anything, but they also like to burrow into the ground whenever they turn invisible. In theory, you could use this as an opportunity to do a finisher attack on them. But the hitbox is really small because they have a tiny head. I only pull it off like once in a blue moon, practically, and I don't really know, again, if there's a consistent way to do it. These guys sound like they would be super annoying, but really they're not all that bad. They're certainly a lot more handleable if you're playing as Samanosuke, but instead, we're playing as Kaede, and therefore this is now a boss. Just fully fledged, this is her boss fight here.
Have to tell him.
Thank you for not using a demon seal, by the way. That would have really sucked for Kaede. know we just had an enemy explanation a second ago, so I'm just gonna keep this one short. Our doppelganger here is named Stylado. At least I think I'm pronouncing that right. Once again, Japanese names. I don't really know how to transition into this, so instead here's the goofy image that they use for the fandom wiki. He has all the same basic attacks that you have, plus this weird purple projectile move that he likes to use and spam sometimes. Successfully blocking the projectile will end up giving you a magic orb. Sometimes it's pretty big magic orb, so I guess that means, you know, hey, spam magic during this fight. He also really likes to block, which is super annoying, but find an opening, find a gap in his defenses, and just attack him thereafter. The reason I want to be quick about this is because I want to talk about some more cool developmental stuff. For the handful of you that ended up watching the God of War video, do you remember back in the very beginning where I told you that God of War 1 was inspired by Onimusha in some ways? Yeah, well, it's time to talk about that now. In an article by Eurogamer, detailing an interview with David Jaffe, the guy who made the original God of War, one of the direct quotes he said, which was, whose original concept was God of War? David Jaffe replied with, it was mine. Actually, it's Capcom's because I played Onimusha, and said, let's do that but with Greek mythology. This is kind of giant news to me because, as I'm sure plenty of you know already, the character action genre is my favorite genre of all time, which would technically mean Onimusha is the proto-character action. And even if you don't subscribe to that idea, well, its DNA played a part in the character action genre. Given how this game was developed by Capcom, who also made the DMC series, I don't know, I don't think it's a huge stretch of logic to just say that, everything kinda started here. At least, more or less, anyway. And this all ends up being a weird event horizon for me because Devil May Cry and Onimusha released just months apart from each other. They both released in 2001. I don't really know how to end this segment after, you know, just coming off of the excitement of figuring all this information out. But I will say, because, you know, these videos aren't super popular anyway, if you want to know what a future video looks like, might be talking about the entire history of character actions in their entirety. I think that would be a worthwhile thing to talk about, and hey, now you know what the beginning of that video is going to look like. Just keep that between you and me, you know. Also, the Eurogamer article will be linked in the description if you want to check it out for yourself. Oh, and speaking of callbacks, do you remember that quote-unquote barrel I was talking about at the beginning part of this video? Yeah, that was the power jewel, the one we picked up at the bottom of the well. This is where you get it if you accidentally cut the rope, so here you go, I guess. Also, yeah, I guess we have the ability to commune with the freshly deceased now. The point at which we unlock this isn't super clear, but if you want to know what specifically triggers this, it's the rosary we picked up in the basement. No, don't worry, none of this is required, just gives you more flavor text. It's an alternate way to do like the files and stuff that we have been picking up, just more supernaturally coded, basically. Which, funnily enough, actually makes this one of the only 2 items that are completely optional in Onimusha Warlords. I don't know, just vaguely interesting, I guess? We don't really have any clear directions to go, so let's just go ahead and head down that same back alley that Kaede went through. Our only real lead is unlocking those demon seals that, you know, Kaede couldn't unlock, obviously, so why don't we try that? Oh, right, yeah, no, this is a super minor thing that I completely forgot about. The Oni Gauntlet actually upgrades itself whenever you get so many souls. If you want specific numbers, then 25,000 for the first level, and then it upgrades again to be a gold gauntlet at 50,000. What does upgrading do? Well, it just sucks up souls faster. That's pretty much it. But if you wanted hard numbers, there's your hard numbers, I guess. At least it looks cool. Can't knock that, that's pretty neat. I don't know why, I just love that interaction every time it happens. Although, yeah, it makes me wish it happened more often, just, you know, manually setting some traps to hurt enemies. I don't know, it's just kinda cool. I'm not entirely sure why we needed the cutscene to show off the big axe guys again. I mean, I know there's a bigger axe guy, but, I don't know, what do you want me to tell you? Just spam magic. There was a magic refill station 2 screens ago. Like, just use magic.
I need more bullets!
And on this week's episode of Needless Attention to Detail, hitting the sconces causes sparks to fly out. Why do they do this? Couldn't tell ya. It's kinda cool though. Oh, right, so the vision staff is kind of interesting, actually. It gives you the ability to physically see Floret on the ground now. This is supposed to be your cue to find them by going back to all the previous areas, which can be kind of resource sink because there's new enemies in those areas now and, you know, blah blah blah, whatever. But it's just completion incentive, basically. Also, because I didn't check it in the menu until now, let me use it, though! We also got the matchlock now, and we don't have the ability to talk about it quite yet, but don't worry, it'll have its day. No, don't you worry.
Oh, please, do not be afraid. Stay and talk with me for a while. Have you heard of the Dark Realm? It is a kind of paradise. It is a place that contains wondrous treasures. Are you interested? Just remember, if you die, do not come back to haunt me. Are you absolutely sure?
Alrighty, so, welcome to Hell, again, for the 3rd time now. Why does this keep happening to me? Yeah, it's still technically the wrong game, I know, whatever. The Dark Realm is an enemy gauntlet that consists of 20 floors. You have to beat all the enemies in order to advance to the next floor, and after you beat all the enemies you can instead decide to go back up, which will take you back to the normal world. When going through the Dark Realm, things like item management are obviously super important. Sometimes you get rewarded whenever you complete any number of floors, but what items you get are completely randomized. There's at least 3 fluorite in the Dark Realm, so it is required if you're going for 100%, and there's something really special waiting for you on the 20th floor. But we'll obviously cross that bridge when we get there. In all honesty, this is the hardest challenge that Onimusha Warlords has to offer. The enemies that appear here aren't any different from enemies you find in the normal world, but the combination of enemies is where things get really, really brutal. If you're wondering what happens whenever you talk to the gatekeeper inside of the castle instead of inside of the well, well, it leads to the same place, at least in this version. More on that in a longer while. If there was anything in this game that was going to challenge your combat capabilities, it would be this area right here. No bosses appear or anything, but like this is just a war of attrition, an endurance battle all the way throughout. It's in your best interest to enter the Dark Realm whenever you're fully maxed out already, or whenever you're just confident enough that you can get it done, as entering multiple times will take more of your finite healing resources away, and there's no ways to get those back. You can't grind for healing items in this game, so what you have is what you get. And you can't rely on health souls either, because the one change they made to the enemies is that they don't drop them in here. Even if you don't make it all the way to the bottom of the Dark Realm, it's still really good for orb grinding. Going through the Dark Realm even a little bit is likely to upgrade your weapons all the way your first time through.
Garang.
Although yeah, given the finite item thing I just talked about, it's in your best interest to complete the Dark Realm either your first or second time. If you decide to pull out on your second time through, don't go in a third time. It's not worth the item sink this far in already. But this is the earliest to unlock it, so why don't we give it a shot?
Garang. 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 Garang.
Okay, by now, I've completely lost track of where I am in the Dark Realm, but I can't do this, not this early on. I think I have to go back. This isn't over though, we'll be back later, I promise.
So you have made it this far.
Beyond this gate lies the demon world. It's over. We will never be able to save you, Mamoru.
Samanosuke, what is this? Ha! We have to destroy that stone. Let's separate and find a way.
Well, that's our lot, I guess. With that, let's figure out where to go. Now, if I was a magical demon seal busting key, where would I be?
Space sword!
It's been a minute since we talked about some proper video game mechanics here. So allow me to take this opportunity to point you back to the weapons that we have. By now, if you've been diligent about upgrading your weapons all the way, odds are all of your stuff is going to be max level. This not only goes for your weapons, but it also goes for your Oni Orbs as well. So, I guess a fair question to ask would be, what else can you spend your EXP on? Well, back during the very beginning of this series, I mentioned how you could upgrade finite resources to make them stronger. All of your finite resources take red orbs just like anything else does, and if you want something to prioritize because you already have your weapons and orbs maxed out, probably hard focus into upgrading as many herbs as you can. Alternatively, you could spend red orbs to upgrade things like arrows and bullets, and these are useful too, they do more damage with their respective weapon, but upgrading herbs into medicine is a pretty huge benefit. Do note that upgrading an herb isn't exactly the cheapest thing to afford a lot of the time. It takes exactly 1 orb gauge to upgrade a herb into a medicine container. Herbs will roughly heal you about 1/4 of your health bar, give or take, but medicine will always fully heal your HP bar, which is obviously way more valuable. Knowing exactly how much health you're going to get out of a healing item makes it much easier for rationing. And making it a consistent number that heals your health all the way back up means that you're allowed to take a lot more risks. Ultimately though, if you wanted more firepower, then there's nothing wrong with upgrading the bullets or the arrows. Both the bow and the matchlock are basically Resident Evil magnums, which is to say if left to their own devices, they could bore a hole into the center of the earth. So it's not like unreasonable to upgrade those either, they're showstoppers for sure. But let's go ahead and circle back to the regular weapons. As I said before, by now, all of your equipment should be maxed out. And through your utilization of this equipment, hopefully you found a pretty nice niche for all of them. The Raizan acts as a good pistol equivalent. If you don't really know what weapon to take with you into a fight, it has a good balance of both speed and power. That's not even mentioning its magic attack, which by now is capable of one-shotting every regular enemy in the game. And in terms of single target damage, this is probably the best use case for it. The Shippu with its blades at both ends means that you are allowed to attack multiple enemies at once. And because of the angle of attacks, it's capable of not only hitting multiple enemies, but also hitting enemies that are, hard to hit normally. Because this weapon also basically makes you one big hitbox, it makes E-Sen counters extremely easy to trigger as well. I know I haven't brought up E-Sens yet, but I'm finding a good time to talk about them, we'll get to that soon. But don't forget that the Shippu's tornado magic is also, a good AoE magic. If you find a room with way too many guys in it, then just hit triangle once and they're all gone. That's it, that's all you need to do. And finally, the Inryu. The fire greatsword capable of doing a bunch of damage. Weirdly, I think the more important aspect of this weapon is the weapon itself and not its magic, which is sort of antithetical to every other weapon in Onimusha. I've mentioned it about 100 times already, but, as I've said before, there's no such thing as bad magic in Onimusha. The Enryu's wave of fire hitting a line as it creeps across the ground is definitely good still, it's just going to be hard to hit more than one enemy. And because you already have the Ryzan's good single target attack, the Enryu just kinda comes off as a weird in-between. It's also the only magic attack that allows enemies to attack you while you're performing it, so long as you haven't already slammed the blade in the ground, which means it has some wind-up before it actually unleashes any damage. So I guess a good niche for the Enryu's magic might be a good ranged option, making it the only renewable ranged attack in the entire game. And I mean, sure, that's cool. Alternatively, you could just use the big greatsword, which is capable of 2 or 3-shotting basic enemies. And I only just thought about this, but if we're going with this line of thinking, you can kinda see the Enryu as the ultimate all-or-nothing weapon. Maybe you have a comfortable amount of health and you don't really mind how slow the weapon swings. But maybe you're running out of healing resources, or you don't have any health in general, and you just want to attack enemies from range using its magic attack. And I've got on record before saying that Capcom just knows how to make weapons in a video game feel good. I made a whole video about it, but don't watch it, it's old and cringy. But I still think they're the best in the business for just, I don't know, really understanding how all of this plays together, you know? Like, yeah, we only have 3 main weapons in Onimusha, but each of those weapons cover their bases so well that you don't really mind how little you have in terms of gameplay variety. Our boy Samanosuke is so skilled with any one of these weapons that, well, he doesn't really feel out of place for using any one of them. If you couple all these factors together, like the weapon's design, their implementation, where you use them, and how you should be using them, there's a strong argument to be made that these weapons kind of have their own personality, almost. Like, no, none of these weapons have any spoken or even written dialogue or anything, but they have obvious pros and cons. And it's all of these factors that could allow you to have sort of a favorite weapon out of these 3. Whether it be purely aesthetic, or because of how they function, or any number of things. And I don't know, that's kinda special. It always feels good whenever you get your stats maxed out in a video game, just like any video game. It's like you compare your numbers to how you were at the beginning of the game, and it's just like, hell yeah, you know what I mean? And in similarly related hell yeah news, we got the Great Armor. The largest defense upgrade in the game, capable of stopping the trains, quite frankly, if I'm allowed to be hyperbolic. It's also just so snazzy looking, look at it go. Now wouldn't it suck if we had all this ripped away from us because of a Kaide segment? No, wait, hold on. Okay, so we've entered the Kaide Hour Part 2. I don't really have anything else to say because, again, Kaide doesn't have anything new going on, hardly ever. And I very badly want to just skip on to something else and go back to Samanosuke, but no, I'm going to take this as an opportunity to talk about these secondary playable characters in Capcom games. And why I think these segments kind of fail in that regard. Now that I think about it, this would make a pretty good topic for its own separate video, but let's go ahead and lump it in here. So think about all the times in Resident Evil games where you play as another character. Think about your Resident Evil 2s and how you're playing as, like, Sherry or Ada, for example. Resident Evil 3 has Carlos, Resident Evil 4 has Ada again with Assignment Ada, or Separate Ways, and stuff like that, right? Why do those segments work so well? For me, their strongest moments boil down to brevity and also player power. Any instance you're playing as Ada or Carlos, for example, you're basically a glass cannon the whole time. Yeah, Ada isn't necessarily the strongest character. Whenever she gets hit, she takes a bunch of damage, but she has explosive power. She's able to move around and kick enemies, and she moves really fast. You go through practically the entire game as Ada in Resident Evil 4, but instead of just like walking everywhere, she has a grappling hook, which allows her to expedite a lot of the traveling. This falls in line with her existing characteristics. She's a sort of secret agent gun for hire that just does whatever she wants, however she can, and she values speed and a job well done above everything else. Except for maybe Leon, and sometimes that goes through in the story itself regarding these little playable segments. Not only are most of these characters extremely capable, but also you don't play as them for very long. And you're really not supposed to. Think back on Resident Evil 2, right? Whenever you beat the game, you unlock the 4th Survivor. The 4th Survivor is a post-game auxiliary mode that lets you play as Hunk, an absolutely mythic character in terms of Resident Evil lore. Depending on what version of Resident Evil 2 you play, either the remake or the original version, the 4th Survivor modes in these games opt to not give you any ammo that drops from enemies. There's no way to get pistol or TMP or shotgun ammo or anything like that. Instead, you're supposed to ration your resources by going through the game as quick as possible. Typically, it's the entirety of the game, and you're more or less just speedrunning with an incredibly overpowered kit. This empowers the player, but also makes it to where you don't play the game for very long, so there's no, like, ugly overstaying its welcome sort of feelings, right? So then think about all the Capcom games you've ever played, where you've had these other moments where you play as these other characters, and then think about Kaide. Why do these moments fail? I understand I'm being a little bit rough here. It's not like these segments are all that bad, I've mentioned that before, but they're not exactly highlights of the gameplay. Kaide is not a particularly powerful character. The most stopping power you have during these segments is the kunai. Again, ranged Onimusha weapons, so, you know, they're pretty goofy strong, but even still they're the weakest of the ranged weaponry. She doesn't get the ability to absorb demon souls, which is another problem, and this is fine on the surface, but it means that she can't restore her health unless she uses healing items. And this is a pretty big nerf just given how, you know, again, the healing resources are shared between Samanosuke and Kaide. It's a giant punishment, and as a result, you kind of don't look forward to playing as Kaide because if you make a mistake, it's on the more dire side of mistakes you can make. What's worse is that there's not really any real way to fix this. If Kaide was just overtly powerful, there would be some narrative dissonance involved with her capabilities versus the demons you fight, and that's not really any good. I actually think this segment plays a lot better because you don't have any forced fights, it's just a straight run to the end and then you go back and save Samanosuke. In this way, I actually think the Kaide segment is much better because, well again, it fits her playstyle better. You're running around, you're being a ninja, and you're not taking any damage, you're just getting your mission done. That's all you need to do. It just kinda sucks because there's not really any cool factor going on with Kaide. She's not running around with a grappling hook, she's not running on rooftops, or, you know, doing any cool platforming stuff, or pseudo-platforming stuff. And I think that's a really big missed opportunity for a ninja character. Despite my reservations, I will insist that these are not really all that big of a problem in the grand scheme of things. Kaide, in every sense of the word, is the worst part about this game, but it's not like she's offensively bad, or her segments are offensively bad or anything. It's just a particularly sour spot, and given that she's lumped in with the puzzle room, the infamous drowning puzzle room, it's really not doing her any favors either. The other games in this series do the other playable character segments much better in many ways, but it's not exactly a good idea to talk about them now. I just sort of think that they fumbled the bag here, and once again, I don't know, I don't really like these segments all that much. The second part is better, the first part is a little bit worse, and neither of them are highlights. They're lowlights, if anything. And I don't know, I just think that kinda sucks.
A monster's coming! Watch out!
I knew you would come. You are so impressive for a mere human. But you are late. Our dark ceremony is starting. Yumamoru will be sacrificed in front of Princess Yuki.
No!
Princess Yuki cherishes Yumamoru. If he is sacrificed in front of her, her sorrow will peak, making her blood its most delicious and strongest, granting our Lord Nobunaga more power when he drinks it.
That is why you took them? You will suffer for that!
Now, my dear babies, consume that human over there at once!
Okay, pause real quick again. I don't actually know if this boss is supposed to be hard. She's a giant flying bug monster that's hard to hit with a melee weapon. And ever since I got the bow, do you remember whenever I told y'all I'm going to be saving my ammo for one very specific reason? Well, what would sound like the immediate counter to a flying enemy? Ranged weaponry, obviously. Let's continue. I once again have no idea if this fight is supposed to be particularly hard. Hopefully you understand by now that boss fights in Onimusha, or any fight in Onimusha for that matter, become a lot less difficult whenever you pull out the neutral special. I've said it once, I'll say it again, do not sleep on the gun, don't sleep on the bow, use these weapons. They're literally better in terms of damage as opposed to the literal magic Oni weapons. Don't know why, but it's pretty silly. Let's continue on here.
Kaede. Hang on, Kaede. Rest here for a while. This nightmare must end! Now! Princess Yuki, Yumimaru, I will save you!
haven't had much opportunity to talk about the music in Onimusha. But it, like everything else in the game, is surprisingly good. This track here serves as kind of a victory lap for you going to the Demon Gate and finally confronting the worst that the Demon World has to offer. But before we do that, I have a promise to fulfill. We are armed to the teeth, we don't need our bullets to be saved for anything else anymore, we can use our bow if we really need to, and I can also take this opportunity to finally mention the Isen counter system. This is a secret mechanic that exists throughout the entirety of Onimusha. We've had the ability to use it all game, it's just that the game doesn't feel the need to tell us how to do it. To perform an Isen counter, all you have to do is attack the enemy at the correct time. Just before an enemy attack makes contact with you, press the attack button and you'll do a one-shot move. This works on every regular enemy in the game, and the tell for it is a lot more auditory than visual. If you hear the end portion of a whoosh from a sword or something, that's your cue to attack. Not only is this capable of one-shotting enemies, but it also always nets you a yellow soul to refill some of your health. And yes, this even includes the Dark Realm. It also nets you some bonus red orbs, and there is a guard version of an Isen that you can also perform. This is simply based off of blocking at the correct time. If you really want to feel like a samurai in these games, the Isen counter is the way to do it. They're sort of the most quantifiable measure of skill and capability in Onimusha. They exist in all of the games, and they always feel good whenever you perform them. I have never mastered the Isen counters, at least not during this playthrough, but utilization and mastery of this mechanic can obviously save your skin in some pretty tight situations. With all of our resources and knowledge in hand, let's try this again. You could not pay me to take a chance right now. I'm using a soul absorber. Do you see how low my health is? I'm right at the end. Okay, I think we did it. Oh my god, that took 16 minutes of non-stop fighting the whole time. We got the Bishamon Ocarina out of it, which doesn't look like all that yet, but trust me, this is gonna make or break the final boss. Let's go ahead and take our victory lap now.
You pathetic human worm. Impressive you've come this far, but ultimately futile since your journey ends here. Only demons can enter.
You! Why don't you go back to playing with your worthless little toys? I have no time for you!
What did you say? How dare you! A mere human mock me? Fine then. It's time for you to fight my greatest creation! Come on, Celeste! Come on, Celeste! Crush!
Hey look, it's Marcellus again. A large part of me wants to just say that this is the same fight as whenever we fought him on the rooftops, but no, that would be underselling how dangerous this version of Marcellus really is. He's got all the same tricks again, big shield, big sword. He's got this big red glowing sword attack now, and it's completely unblockable, which is a problem, especially considering the Dark Realm took all of my healing items. But the fight gets so much worse whenever you break his shield this time. Double the swords, double the speed, double the damage. This fight sucks. I genuinely don't have any tips here, just get good. That's what he's telling you, and that's what I'm gonna tell you. Dude is pretty relentless, so maybe try to play defensively during this fight. Other than that, well, good luck. All that work we did on the Dark Realm, it's about to pay off. The Bishamon sword is the most overpowered weapon in Onimusha, like, period. Make no mistake, this does still count as an Oni weapon, but the magic attack doesn't cost anything, and it is stupid overpowered. Whether or not you get the Bishamon Ocarina to get this sword will make the last boss either the easiest fight in the game or the hardest fight in the game, and it's entirely dependent on whether or not you get this sword. If you were wondering, by the way, no, you can't take it out of the Dark Realm, or whatever this area is called, and yeah, that sucks. And you can't even get it in an NG Plus either, but oh well. Like I said, victory lap, let's just get this over with.
I am Fortune Draw. Welcome to our little ceremony. Come here, Nobunaga. Drink her blood from the grail of despair.
Samanosuke!
I'm fine.
We cannot stay here any longer. Run!
Yumemaru!
There is no escape from me!
Forget about me! Go! Yuki, Kaede, Yume, Maru.
The demon's ambitions were shattered by the hand of Samanosuke and his friends. However, when Yoshitatsu Saito died the following year, his feeble-minded son, Tatsuoki, became the Lord. At that time, Oda's army returned to Mino Province and conquered the Inabayama Castle, putting an end to the history of the Saito family. However, it is unknown as to whether demons were involved.
And there we go. We don't have much in the way of an epilogue, so let's just go ahead and wrap this up. Princess Yuki goes off and sees the world much like Samanosuke, seeing the world with her own eyes and experiencing everything life has to offer. Yumemaru follows suit, traveling alongside Princess Yuki, and who knows, maybe we see him again one day in a future game or something. That'd be pretty cool. Kaida goes and looks for the now missing Samanosuke, and much to her chagrin, she doesn't end up finding him anywhere. This little text blurb also mentions that Kaide randomly dies in the middle of a war that has nothing to do with her or Samanosuke for some reason. What, okay? That seems weirdly mean-spirited. Why? What? Wait, hold on. Yeah? What do you mean it happened in a game nobody played? And it was a 2D fighter that nobody liked? Okay, well now I feel really bad. And to this day, Samanosuke is still missing. Now ashamed of his newfound Oni powers, he doesn't really know how to handle himself, so he just kinda wanders the world. A real wandering samurai type. And that's it. That's Onimusha Warlords. The first game in a mostly forgotten series that has tried its best to be relevant, and it just never happened. I, of course, have thoughts and closing statements, plural, and a whole bunch of other stuff I want to talk about, so let's go ahead and start off with some stuff that I didn't mention in the main gameplay. Lesser known factoid, if you get caught in a grab attack, the QTE-ish thing to get out of them is to wiggle the left and right directional keys back and forth as fast as you can. It's not pressing a button, it's literally just moving left and right. It's pretty easy to pull off on just about any enemy in the game, and whenever you know that it's a thing you can do, you can escape any grab attack just with ease. I didn't do a great job of showing any of that off because that was information that only became privy to me pretty recently, like literally a couple of days ago whenever I was doing more research for this game. In completely unrelated news, I really wish there was more going on with the characterization in this game just as a blanket statement. Out of all the games that I played, taking the role of a samurai and having that be sort of the protagonist of a game is not something I'm normally privy to. I have a newfound appreciation for characters like Samanosuke because of the fact that he's a globe-trotting samurai. I think that concept is just really cool, sort of having a character mix their cultures and have their morals tested and, you know, just their worldviews change because the world is so much wider than they were expecting, and that stuff's cool to me. It's for a lot of the same reasons that I think William from the Neo games is a really cool character. The script is flipped a little bit in that instance, but I don't know, I just think that's really interesting. Melding fighting styles together and coming up with new techniques and using a whole host of different weaponry and stuff, and that stuff's cool. I just like that. For all the narrative influences regarding the Onimusha series, it's kind of weird how we don't see very much of Oda Nobunaga. If you've played any Japanese-centered media in the past 20 years, give or take, he's a pretty prominent figure because he's a real-life historical warlord. In an interesting twist of fate, if you decide to play any Japanese-centered video games, Nobunaga may be a protagonist, a supporting character, an antagonist, or really just anything under the sun. Because this is one of the first Japanese folklore video games I've ever played, it gave me a pretty negative disposition to Nobunaga whenever I would play other games. I always just kind of assumed that he would be an antagonist and that was it, but that's not always the case. And yeah, I just kind of wish there was more being done here to show you that Oda Nobunaga is a complex character. That goes for about everybody in this cast, though. The very last gameplay thing I can mention, fluorite chunks. I ended up with 18. You get a goofy costume for Samanosuke that makes him wear a panda outfit. It's not all that interesting or really all that funny, it's just kind of weird. And 20 will end up giving you a sort of minigame-ish thing, where you basically run around and pop these urns to release Oni souls. If you make it all the way through the end of this little side mode, you get a hard mode difficulty, bumps up the enemy stats, and that's pretty much it. Kind of a cool thing, if you also collect 10 fluorite, then you get a trailer for Onimusha 2. It's a really early concept trailer, but it's a good teaser for what else is coming out of this series. They so badly wanted to make this a franchise that they immediately started making a second game in this series, practically at the same time that Onimusha 1 was being developed. But the topic of Onimusha 2 as a video game would be better left for an Onimusha 2 video, so let's just move on for something else. If you're at all interested in playing the game yourself, you obviously have things like the PS2 original, there's an Xbox version that goes under a different name. Don't start off with that one, I'll talk about it in a sec. And then you also have the remaster for PS4. Very recently, another remaster for Onimusha 2 also came out, which is cool, and maybe we get the third game too someday, that would be cool. That one's my favorite. The Onimusha 1 remaster has a couple of little technical issues associated with it. Yeah, everything looks cleaner, but it sort of borks the music. And in terms of a 100% pure experience, it has some problems. If you don't like tank controls though, I don't know, maybe pick it up and play it. Removes the tank controls and gives you full analog stick movement. Maybe that's a benefit, maybe that's a perk for you. Onimusha is a weird series, man. Time after time, with each new game in this series, Capcom has been trying their hardest to throw this game into a proper limelight, bringing it into the mainstream with less than success each and every time. Whenever I first set out to make this video, I was doing it for the sake of the new game coming out. As we currently stand, there's really no way to tell what kind of game Onimusha Way of the Sword is going to be. No idea of its quality, of what gameplay mechanics it's going to entail, whether or not it's going to reach the public zeitgeist in any capacity, or really anything. It's just a bunch of question marks, and the more I think about Way of the Sword, the more questions I have. Onimusha as an IP has simply just performed way better in Japan. It never really got a following in the States, or anywhere outside of Japan for that matter. I didn't give any sales figures whenever I was talking about it the first time, but here's some sales figures. And over the course of me making this project, I've really gone on to just appreciate the efforts that Capcom did for making this game be the way it is. The efforts of Takeshi Kaneshiro and everybody else on the dev team. They could have stopped at any point, relegating the rest of the series to be a Japanese exclusive franchise after Onimusha Warlords, but for some reason or another, that wasn't the case. They really tried with these games, they continued to try, and at the end of it all, we got a couple of really good games from a series that nobody really played, with its mechanics and storytelling being kind of influential for video games as a whole going forward. Credit it will most likely never really get. If you don't believe me in this fact, then may I remind you of the whole David Jaffe playing Onimusha Warlords, liking it and saying let's do that but with Greek mythology. God of War, and by some extension the rest of the character action genre, would have been a very different game, a very different genre. I've had a couple of weird instances just telling me that my life is a strange Ouroboros of, one big cycle over and over again. I grew up with a FromSoft game as well, weirdly enough, so I actually have some stake in saying that I grew up with some version of Dark Souls of all things. Once again, that's another story for a different time. But over the course of doing this project, and specifically this project, I've grown a lot of appreciation for Onimusha. As I said before, and will continue to say, there's no telling what Onimusha Way of the Sword is going to pan out to be. Is it just going to be another pretty good game that nobody really pays attention to? Possibly, that could be in the cards, as sad as that is to say. It could also just be an outright bad game, sullying what little legacy it has over here in the States. Whatever this series decides to look like in the future, I just hope that one day, Onimusha, as an idea, as a concept, gets its due diligence one day. Because it really does deserve it, in my opinion. Practically the entire time I've been getting footage and making this video, I just really want to play Demon Siege because I think that's the best game in the series. Fight me on it if you want to. And I don't really know. At the end of the day, Onimusha is a lot of things. It's got some good, it's got some bad that ebbs towards mid, and it's got a whole lot of ugly that can either appear on either sides of the extreme spectrum a lot of the time. But now that everything's said and done, I guess that's it. I thank you all from the bottom of my heart following me on this journey today. It's been a learning experience for me, especially as someone who's grown up with these games and wants to give them proper credit. I've come to understand that I really need to do something better with these RTLGs. Something that makes them more watchable. Something that isn't just a pure runtime of explaining every minute detail of a game, because that doesn't really work for me, it seems. Or at least that's what YouTube tells me, in any case. And that isn't just me pandering to an algorithm or anything. Whenever it comes to writing and making videos, I much more prefer the short, snappy, comedic writing style that has some, real thought-provoking meaning and words behind it. I guess just, writing that's more efficient, if you wanted to sum it up in a single sentence. Now we might just have the chance to do that probably pretty soon here. Because we're not done with Onimusha 1. We're done with Warlords, this game is finished, this is everything I wanted to say for Onimusha, but not for the entirety of the first game. For those of you who maybe have played this game, did you know that there was an Xbox exclusive hard mode port that does a bunch of changes? Because I didn't until just last week, basically. Whenever I decided to research into that topic, I discovered another equally Onimusha-sized rabbit hole that I decided to jump headfirst down into. And the story of that one's similarly pretty interesting. If you wanted a little teaser for what something like that even looks like, they put a Mr. X in Onimusha. I'm not kidding, here look. So yeah, that's awful, and we're gonna talk about it. So, I hope you'll join me again for next week, whenever we talk about Genma Onimusha. The super niche port of an even more niche video game. It's gonna be a good time, I think. But for now, let me go ahead and wrap up. If you enjoyed the video today, then as always, a like, comment, subscription, Discord join, Patreon join, all that good stuff. It goes a super long way to making this a day job for me. If I'm gonna be honest, I'm at a little bit of a crossroads here for my life in a personal sense. This last year and a half of making YouTube videos has been some of the most fulfilling my life has ever been. And even if you decide to do nothing else other than watch this video to the end, then hey, thank you, honestly. Patreon shoutouts as always goes over to Stefan over on patreon.com. If you feel like supporting me, subscriptions start at $1 a month. They can give you access to things like sneak peeks of videos, full videos before they pop up on YouTube. Might even do some bonus video stuff later on in the future too. I think I can finally wrap up now though. So with that, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you again next Friday. It'll be a fun one, I promise. I hope you enjoyed, and have a good day everybody.